You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 131.1, our boys basketball scoreboard for Saturday's games in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties, with a report from the Grant 4 tournament with Action Sports Network's Grant Shouse.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you've chosen to listen to the Central Indiana Sports Report. We think you've made a really good choice. Today is December 29th, 2024. It's a Sunday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana basketball. Coming to you today from headquarters in Jeffersonville, enjoying a little bit of Christmas break with producer Susie. Welcome to the scoreboard for Saturday's boys basketball games in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. Coming up, we have a report from the Grant 4 tournament with the Action Sports Network's Grant Shouse. It's our last boys basketball scoreboard for 2 or 3 days, but we'll still have plenty of podcast segments. In the next couple of days, we will release all of our weekend review segments, probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as I get them done. Of course, our weekend review reviews every single one of our teams in our coverage area, our weekly honors, player of the week, coach of the week, team of the week, etc., and our top 20 power poll. We'll also talk with several local coaches about their teams. This week's weeks in review will not just focus on the last week, but all of the 2024 portion of the team schedules. Michelle Garman will return Friday to make Friday's game picks. She'll also help me preview the girls Grant 4 tournament. Hopefully that will come out on Friday if all goes according to plan. We will also have segments on the Colts with George Brimmer, the Pacers with Mike Rich, IU basketball with Grant Shouse, the college football playoffs with Eric and Ryan Robinson, plus Will Rutherford's 5 questions that need answers, and we will also have some special guests between now and Friday. We start this segment with Saturday's scores, then all of the highlights from all of our teams that played on Saturday. All of the rankings that I'm about to tell you are according to the USA Today poll. Mississippi won the Grant 4 tournament championship for the second year in a row. The Indians beat Madison Grant 59-46 in the first round and Eastbrook 41-37 in the championship game. The upset of the tournament happened in the first round when Eastbrook beat host and tournament favorite Oak Hill 43-38. Oak Hill rebounded to beat Madison Grant 59-46 in the consolation game. Host Kokomo won the Phil Clay Memorial Tournament. The Wildcats beat Merrillville 80-63 in the semifinal, then took down Warren Central 76-71 in the championship game on Saturday evening. Delta won its own 8-team holiday tournament. After getting 2 wins Friday, the Eagles beat Class 2A number 5 Providence 45-26 in Saturday's championship game for their 8th win in a row. Earlier, Muncie Central finished 3rd in the tournament with a 36-34 win over Cecina. 10th-ranked Anderson blew out Glenn and Garrett by combined 83 points to win the tournament at East Noble. They beat Glenn 83-23 and Garrett 75-52. Sheridan beat North White 72-24. Then Hagerstown 85-55 to win a holiday tournament for the first time in at least 30 years. Tri-Central went 1-1 at Morristown. They were edged 57-54 by Western Boone, then finished 3rd in the tournament with a 69-55 win over Heron. Hamilton Heights went 2-1 and finished 5th at the Switzerland County Invitational. On Saturday, they beat Trinity Lutheran 79-56. Western finished 7th at Lebanon. The Panthers lost 51 to 39 early Saturday in the consolation bracket, but beat Faith Christian 64 to 46 in the 7th place game. Host Lebanon beat Mooresville 41 to 31 in the title game. Class 2A number 15 Northeastern remains unbeaten after winning its holiday tournament. The Knights beat Union County 64 to 54 in the championship. Alexandria finished 4th after a 51 to 43 loss to Doc Nash's Borden Braves on Saturday. Yorktown took a pair of losses, 61 to 60 to Columbus East and 57 to 38 to Triton Central at Greenwood. And Greater Latrobe came to Indiana and won the Shenandoah Invitational. The Pennsylvania school beat Shenandoah 56 to 50 in the championship game. Blackford finished 4th after a 51 to 43 loss to Greenwood Christian. Number 1 Fishers won the Hall of Fame Classic, beating number 4 Warsaw 54 to 51 in the opener, and number 3 Greenfield Central 85 to 50 in the championship game. Number 12 Jeffersonville finished 3rd by beating Warsaw 51 to 44 in the consolation game. Jeffersonville is 5-4 but has been without future Northwestern Wildcat Trey Singleton all season until Saturday. North Central won the North Central Classic. The Panthers beat Lake Central 69 to 63 in the championship game. Also on Saturday at North Central, Class 4A number 15 South Bend Riley beat number 13 Pike 71 to 67. Wrights beat number 7 Carmel 55 to 44 after beating Pike in double overtime on Friday. And Evansville Harrison beat Park Tudor 66 to 63. Mechanicsville beat Peru 71 to 63 in overtime to win the Miami County Invitational. 2A number 8 Manchester won the Wabash County Championship with an 83 to 47 win over Southwood. Northfield beat Wabash 46 to 38 for 3rd place. Class 3A number 8 Garin Catholic beat 3A number 5 Silver Creek 68 to 57 to win the championship at Lawrenceburg. 3A number 6 New Pal lost 77 to 72 to Silver Creek, but then rebounded and beat Whiteland 75 to 55 in the consolation game. I have a feeling some of those teams are going to see each other again down the road, probably in March. Lafayette Jeff won the tournament championship at Highland, going 3-0, finishing it off with a 61 to 40 win over Kankakee Valley on Saturday. And Terre Haute North beat Terre Haute South 55 to 37 to win the Wabash Valley tournament. And we had 4 regular old games. Pendleton Heights dominated the 4th quarter in a 63 to 50 win over Chittard. 2A number 1 Wapahani remained unbeaten after holding off Jay County 50 to 46. Brownsburg beat Class A number 4 Liberty Christian 64 to 43, and Class 4A number 4 Westfield beat Richmond 71 to 27. The Rocks led 40 to 4 at the half. Before we get to the roundup, please go right now and like, subscribe, or follow on your favorite podcasting site. Do it right now so you don't miss a single segment. Don't forget, we're also on YouTube now. Just search Central Indiana Sports Report. We start, of course, at the Grant 4 tournament, where Mississinawa won back-to-back championships with wins over Madison Grant and Eastbrook. In the opening game, the Indians beat Madison Grant 53 to 39, and then Eastbrook upset Oak Hill, the host and favorite, 43 to 38. Oak Hill rebounded to beat Madison Grant 59 to 43 in the consolation game. And then Mississinawa beat Eastbrook 41 to 37 in the championship, coming from behind to complete the title. Grant Shouse was the sideline reporter for the Action Sports Network at Saturday's Grant 4, and he called with a report on the tournament. All right, Grant, long day for you and your colleagues. Probably a long day for everybody involved, but a very good day, especially for the Mississinawa Indians. Tell us how it happened on Saturday at Oak Hill.
I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, and I'm sorry, I was wrong about this year's tournament. Um, we talked about it earlier in our preview of the tournament about how, I thought that maybe, and this was no bias towards it, but I thought that maybe Oak Hill could have been the slight favorite going into it. But like I said, I was wrong.
Well, you were absolutely right that you thought something crazy was going to happen. So you were also right.
That I guess that is true. If history tells us anything, that that it's not a surprise that the home team did not win.
And it's not a surprise that the favorite didn't win.
Exactly. And I saw really, I think, 4 good games. Madison Grant came up on the short end of things, losing both games, and that's unfortunate. That if you're a Madison Grant player or if you're a coach, I hate to say it, but that really, that almost feels like it deflates you a little bit. It gives you a bitter taste losing 2 games in one day to 2 county rivals like that. So, Madison Grant with Xavier Yagi under the weather, he was not feeling well. He played a heck of a he played 2 really solid games, especially the second game, the consolation game. He was really solid.
Madison Grant has a lot of solid pieces. They just don't have that one go-to scorer that every team needs.
Yeah, and in the first game today, they got that out of Brock Barnhart. He had, I think, 21 points in the first game against Mississinawa, in a game that Madison Grant really came out and played well. They, my pregame question to Coach Hendrickson, which was live, I said, Coach, what does Madison Grant have to do to win their first Grant Ford championship since 2006? And it was plain and simple. It was straight to the point. He said, got to hit shots. And he was right. They had to hit shots. He absolutely hit the nail on the head there, because they had to hit shots. And in the first half, they did hit shots. They were only down 5 at halftime, 26-21 at the break. And they came out in the second half and kind of did the opposite. They couldn't hit shots, and Mississinawa started playing better. Mississinawa, if you ask how they got it done, they got it done because of a guy named Tyvon Jacobs. Came in off the bench. This is a guy that Mississinawa has needed to see grow in the last few years, and he has grown. And he didn't start. He came in off the bench in both games, not just the first game, but also in the championship. Make big plays, grab big rebounds. He's a post player, but he's not a tall post player. He's maybe 6'1", 6'2", but he's strong. He's muscular underneath. They got a lot out of him. They got a lot out of their freshman Ravion Fetts. Ravion Fetts played extremely well as a freshman. You couldn't even tell he's a freshman out there.
No.
He hit some big free throws down the stretch. I didn't know he's a freshman till today. I'd not seen Mississinawa till today. I didn't know he's a freshman, but just by looking at him, I mean, not physically wise, but because he's he's a shorter kid. He's probably got some growing to do.
Right.
And his parents would tell you that, probably, and his coaches. But just the way he plays, I didn't know he's a freshman from the standpoint of just the way he plays. He's so poised, he's so calm, and we interviewed him live after the championship tonight, after a 41-37 win over Eastbrook. We'll talk about Eastbrook in a minute, but
yes,
he's a confident young man. He's very confident. He wants to be a leader, and he's going to be a leader. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not 1,000 points. I'd be surprised if he's not a 1,000-point scorer by the end of his career.
Yes,
he plays with he's just so tough. He's just got a toughness about him. He was really good for them today. I'm not so sure they win that today without Ravion Fetts.
I would imagine not. Yes. All right. Let's real fast talk about Eastbrook's win over Oak Hill, which was, other than Mississinawa winning it, the story of the day. Eastbrook, a story on the rise, first year under a new coach who's had success there at that school with the girls. And I think every coach I talked to this year has said Eastbrook's a team on the rise. Let's just hope it doesn't happen this year.
Yeah, and it's a thing where, like, you go back to their last game against Alexandria, a game they no disrespect to Marty Carroll, because he's
Right.
become a good friend of mine, but it was probably a game that Eastbrook had no business losing. They
Yeah.
probably should have won the game. I didn't see it, but from the way I've
I
heard
was there. You
from
could
the
make
thing,
you could make that argument. I think
they
Alexandria did a lot of things to win that game, but you're right.
exactly, yeah. And one of the things they did is that Marty and them, and I don't want to get off subject, but Marty and them always change up a defense and throw all kinds of different defensive looks at you, and it could throw a team off their game. But I think that's probably how they beat Eastbrook. But I think if you're Eastbrook after that Alexandria loss, you're saying to yourself, just this has to that has to just be such a low moment, if you're a player, because it was a game that went to overtime. You played well. I'll be honest with you. This
They led almost
today,
the entire game, by the way,
yeah,
against
yeah,
Alexandria.
yeah. I guess I didn't realize it. So just now saying it out loud, the only one of the Grant Four schools I had seen prior to today was Oak Hill. It's the only one I've seen all year, believe it or not. But I've seen a lot of Marion. I'll tell you that. Seen a
Yeah.
lot of Marion. But um, I was impressed with Eastbrook, and definitely one of the things is that they're much improved. And that's no knock on Coach Allison, the former coach, because I loved Greg Allison and I thought he did a good job. But bringing in Coach Liddick, and Coach Liddick has nothing to do with a coaching change they made there, but bringing in Coach Liddick was the best possible hire they could have had, because he's gotten them to play better. And I think the biggest question going into the year with Eastbrook was for Coach Liddick as a coach, could he transition and coach a boys team? He's always been a girls coach, and there's a lot of girls coaches that are good girls coaches and they coach boys, and they struggle. They struggle coaching boys because, let's face it, it's a little bit of a different dynamic. So I Eastbrook's much improved. They came out in that game, and to be honest with you, in that game, it was nothing that Eastbrook really did to counter what Oak Hill was doing. Greg, Oak Hill could not throw it in the ocean. They couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, and they couldn't get anything out of Jace Tonigal in that first game. He had 20 in the consolation game. They couldn't get any. I think he only had 12 in the semifinal game against Eastbrook. But he struggled. RJ Shugart struggled. They struggled at the line. They missed a lot of open layups. Not only that, Madison Grant. All four teams missed some great layups there today. It seemed to be the story of the day, and we talked about it a lot. They just missed open looks at the basket right around the rim, and you got to hit those. If Oak Hill just hit probably four or five more shots that were easy looks at the rim, they would have won that first game today. Now, I don't know how they would have fared in the championship game on their home floor, but they definitely could have won that first round game. And they just couldn't throw it in the ocean, and that was a problem. And they got off to a good start in that first game against Eastbrook. They're up 13-8 at the end of the first quarter. Eastbrook battled in the second quarter. They had a 3-point lead going to the halftime. They got up. The Eastbrook got up 8 in the third quarter on Oak Hill. Oak Hill made a run in the last 2.5 minutes of the third quarter. RJ Shugart hit a 3 at the buzzer to end the third quarter after they started to catch fire a little bit, and you're like, okay, here comes Oak Hill. Eastbrook started to kind of fall to the pressure. They almost kind of looked like they were playing not to lose, not to give up the lead of any sort. And here comes Oak Hill, and then all of a sudden, the air kind of went out of the building. It went cold again. They couldn't hit anything again, and they struggled, and they ended up getting beat 43-38. It was so, for me as someone that's seen the Grant Four every year, not missed the Grant Four in probably 10 years, that was one of the most guttiest, grittiest performances all day out of an individual team from Eastbrook. because they played so well. I mean, in spurts they played well, in spurts they played bad. They did play it not to lose in the first game, I thought, to an extent, but they still made plays. When Oak Hill got caught looking, they hit Reed Opperly underneath for a wide open layup that really won Eastbrook the game with about a minute and a half to go. He hit a wide open layup under the basket, and Oak Hill fell asleep on defense, and you can't let that happen. So, big win for Eastbrook. Big day for Eastbrook. I know they lost that championship game. We'll talk about it more, but they got to be feeling good. And if you're an Eastbrook fan, player, coach, whatever, you got to feel like the basketball team's kind of turning the corner a little bit.
Sure seems like it. Before we do talk about the championship game, let's talk about Oak Hill being able to bounce back and win the consolation game and actually leave the tournament with the best record of the four teams. So
absolutely. And the consolation is the dreaded game. Nobody wants to play in the consolation game, let's face it. And it's because A, nobody cares. B, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. I mean, think about it. The only thing that consolation does for not just for Oak Hill, but even Madison Grant, the only thing that consolation game does is just tell you where you're going to place in the tournament, and it's, are you going to be third or fourth?
yeah,
But
it's a game against a rival, and those are always valuable.
Exactly, and it's an opportunity to add another game or add another win.
Yes.
On your record. And so I think that's the most important thing, is that you want to add another win onto your record. And so Oak Hill came out kind of similar to the way they did in the first game against Eastbrook. Got off to a hot start, got up 7-0, landing cruising, knocked down a couple shots for them. Madison Grant just kind of, Oak Hill started to bury him. They were up 11 going to half. Madison Grant really started to chip at the lead in the third quarter, actually got it down, and they tied the game at 35 at one point after being down double digits going into the third quarter. Wow. They got it down and they tied it at 35. And it was like, oh, okay, here comes Madison Grant. We got a ball game. And then Oak Hill, I don't know what Coach Rinbarger said. I don't know. I really don't know the adjustment they made other than that. Jace Tonigal got the ball. He went into takeover mode and really kind of defined who he was, defined who Oak Hill was. They got better play out of Tonigal. He had 20 in the consolation game. RJ Shugart had 18. And when those guys are scoring and you have other guys stepping up and making plays, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
That's right. And then Eastbrook in the championship led much of the game, right?
Yeah, they were up 13 at one point in the second half, like I said earlier. And Mississinawa chipped at it, got it down to 9, and they got it down to 6. They got it down to 6. It was like, okay, Eastbrook, where is the play that we've seen all day, in all game, really, where's that been here in the last few minutes? Then they got it down to 3. Then they tied the game. Then they took the lead. And Eastbrook grabbed the lead right after them. Mississinawa took the lead. It was back and forth there for a minute. And just some big shots from Mississinawa, like we said. Tyvon Jacobs hit some big shots. Ravion Fetts, like we said, hit some big shots. And Eastbrook kind of went cold. They stopped looking at the rim. They kind of just wanted to work the ball around and work some clock and hold the ball. And it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, that's okay to do that and hold the ball. But you got to have good ball handlers to hold, or, that can take care of the basketball. That's why I think if like a team like Oak Hill can kind of, with a lead like that, work their clock a little bit, because they have good enough of a point guard in Jace Tonigal to hold the ball. And, not to say Eastbrook's guards aren't very good, because they were obviously better enough to beat Oak Hill today. But right. I'm just saying, I'm just using that as an example. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you got to have really good guards that can handle the ball. And then I think when it gets to a point where you've held the ball for so long, when you get when you get an open look, you get your best look that you've seen in a while. Take the shot.
Yeah.
I mean, go to the rim. Bodie Howe was Eastbrook's MVP today. He had 20 in the first game. I think he had 14 or 16 in the championship game. He was big. And Coach Liddick told us in the post-game show that Eastbrook played the best basketball out of any team, and he's right. They played the best basketball out of any team in that tournament today for 6.5 quarters. They just couldn't close it out. And you feel for Eastbrook because you can see where the improvement is from a lot of players. You can see where the improvement is from Bodie Howe. You can see where it is from Jaden Yount. You can see where it is from a guy like Reed Opperly. And I remember calling games 2 years ago when Reed Opperly was a full-time JV player that Coach Allison and the staff had to pull up to varsity because they had guys that were sick or were out or something. I can't remember. It was in a game at Frankton, and he played his first varsity minutes from that time. And yeah, he struggled. But as the last 2 years have gone on, you can see where Reed Opperly as a player for Eastbrook has gotten better. And he showed that today. He hit some big shots, like we said, against Oak Hill. He had a couple big defensive plays tonight, a couple blocks. They got some good defense out of Malachi Luthi, but it's kind of similar to Oak Hill where they have Tonigal and Shugart that always are the scorers and want to step up. Eastbrook needs kind of a third or fourth scorer other than Bodie Howe and Jaden Younts.
Yeah, I think Yount is becoming more and more their go-to player as the games go along here. I think that's what's going to happen. But Bodie Howe is a heck of a good leader and a really nice player.
Really good kid too, and WBAT, the other radio station here in town, they do a sportsmanship award every year. They give it to a senior. It's not always on the championship team. It could be one of the four, and the ADs vote on it. And Bodie Howe's not a senior yet, but I'm telling you, when he gets to be a senior, he'll no doubt, I think, sweep that sportsmanship award 4-0. No question he has to. So kind of goes to show what kind of a kid he is. Goes to show, what kind of a coach Liddick is leading these guys, because a lot of these guys are two-sport athletes, and Coach Liddick not only coaches basketball, but he's also an assistant football coach too. So it helps when you know all your guys and you know what they're capable of, not only on the basketball floor, but as character-wise.
All right, Mississinawa coming off of the Grant 4 championship. They go to Newcastle on Saturday. That'll be a tough test. Newcastle's 1-6, but they're a pretty good 1-6. They played Marion well. That's a pretty good team.
That's funny you say that. The first one, I'm actually doing that game next week. So I'll be there. I'll be there and get to see that. So
excellent. Well, we expect a report from that one, Mr. Shouse.
Of course.
All right. And then on Friday, Madison Grant is at home against Cowan, so they should be able to end their 5-game losing streak there, you would think. Although
I would think, yeah.
Cowan's not a pushover. They're not horrible, but you would think Madison Grant's good enough to win that one. Actually, Eastbrook's next game is also at home against Cowan on Saturday, January 11th. And Oak Hill next hosts a really good Peru team. They're 5-4, but they're much better than that on Friday, January 10th.
Yeah, and good news for Oak Hill and Eastbrook is, they get 2 weeks off, so they get time to, get guys to rest. I would imagine if I'm both coaches, I'm giving my guys, they get tomorrow, I give them Monday off, and you think about it, they're probably gonna get New Year's Day off.
Yeah,
have them come in New Year's Eve, get shots. I mean, you're not playing for another 10 days until then.
That's right. You probably want them in the gym every day, but light workouts most of the time.
Right. Yeah. Just get some shots. Don't need to, go through drills or correct things quite yet. I think you do that January 2nd when you get your guys back in the gym. It's like, okay, you've had time. Watch. Did you watch film? Did you go back and watch the Grant 4? And this goes to all teams. Mississinawa is a little different because they play next week, so you almost feel like they're going to have kind of not really a quick turnaround, but they're not going to have as much time to prepare as
That's right.
Oak Hill and Eastbrook will, and even Madison Grant has the game next week. So,
and then of course,
I think you guys, I think you got to get guys in the gym, just get shots up, but then middle of the week or after New Year's is when you start correcting things.
And then starting January 17th, the 24th, the January 31st, February 14th, and February 21st, those are the 5 remaining CIC dates. And it's
Yep.
pretty consistent for all of them, right? It might be all of them do that, but there might be 1 or 2 where they play the Saturday, but it's pretty much that's the way it goes for the rest of the CIC. Oak Hill looks like they're in control, but Blackford might be pretty good, and there are definitely some obstacles out there for Oak Hill. Of course, they've got Eastbrook again on January 17th.
And also that's one of those things where, like, I think we talked about it in our preview of the Grant Four, is that Oak Hill has lost to teams in the Grant Four like they did a few years ago, like I told you, against Madison Grant, and lost them in a close game, and then came back and beat Madison Grant by 30 just
right.
about a month later. So I don't know if we'll see that in this one against Eastbrook in their next matchup. I got no idea. If you're Oak Hill, you'd probably hope, but this one, if you're Oak Hill, the loss this afternoon stings, but hey, get back in the gym. You got Peru coming up. You're going to start, for Oak Hill, they're going to start hitting the kind of the meat of their schedule a little bit with Peru. And then they'll have a tough Southwood team coming in. Then they got Eastbrook, then Alexandria, and then they're kind of in the middle of their conference schedule. And it's only going to get tougher from here.
You want to hear the best news, Grant?
What's that?
December high school basketball is outstanding. January high school basketball is
It's
amazing.
better.
February high school basketball is even better, and then March
And then March is just
off
the best.
off the charts. So
Yep.
we've got all the good stuff left to come.
The saying that in 49 states it's just basketball, but this is Indiana. That's a real thing.
It really is.
Seriously. I mean, that's not just something that people from Indiana say because they want to be proud as a basketball state. It genuinely like that's the God's honest truth.
Yeah, it's Indiana, then a large gap to Kentucky, and then a large gap to everything else.
Yep.
So that's pretty much the way it is.
Kentucky high school basketball is awesome too.
Yes, it is, and they still have the great tournament at the end of the season that makes high school basketball what it is. And Indiana's is great too, but it's not.
It's not what it used to be.
Not what it used to be when it was just. All right, we don't want to get into a class basketball debate because
hey, save that for state tournament time.
Yeah, the off season. Yeah,
talk about. Yeah,
we get that's an off season podcast right there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
We've got to save those for when there's nothing going on. Grant, thank you so much again for your time. Always appreciate it. Thanks so much once again to Grant Shouse for spending his time with us and talking to you about what he saw at Oak Hill. Delta won its invitational by beating Class 2A number 5 Providence 45-26. It's the 8th straight win for Delta and the first loss for the 2022 state champion Pioneers. The Eagles dominated, leading 12-1 after the first, 20-14 at the half, 30-22 at the end of the third, before outscoring the Pioneers 15-4 in the fourth. They held Providence to 1 of 10 from the field in the fourth quarter, while going 5 for 5 themselves and 3 for 4 at the free throw line. They shot 62% for the game and held Providence to 25% and forced 15 turnovers. Delta is now 9-1. Senior Jordan Fernie had 16 points. Senior Bronson Edwards and junior Lucas Bragg scored 10 each. The Eagles host 8-2 and Class 4A number 6 New Pal in a big test, but it's not for a little while. Friday, January 10th. Providence is now 6-1 and got 8 points from Duke Becker. Muncie Central finished third at the Invitational at Delta. after a 36-34 win over Cecina. The game was close throughout. Landon Wells hit a huge three to break a 32-32 tie in the last couple of minutes. There were 2 3-second calls in the final 16 seconds, one on each team. Cecina had a 25-footer at the buzzer to win the game, but it came up short. Muncie Central's now 3-6. They had 4 players with 8 points and 1 player with 4. Freshmen Jackson Johnson and Carlos Eccles and juniors Landon Wells and Shamar Taylor all scored 8 points. Junior Terry Miles finished with 4. The Bearcats are at 3-5 Jay County on Saturday. Cecina's also 3-6. Senior Clifford Brown finished with 10 points. Kokomo won the Phil Cox Memorial Invitational at Kokomo. After starting the tournament with a win on Friday, Kokomo beat Merrillville 80-63 in the first game on Saturday. The Wildcats trailed 11-8 after one quarter, then outscored the Pirates 28-14 in the second quarter and 25-18 in the third. Kokomo shot 50% for the game, and they were 18 for 20 at the free throw line. Junior Barris Moore had a huge weekend. He had 19 points, 3 steals, and 3 rebounds. Junior Corbin Hamill had 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists. And seniors Zion Bellamy and Davion Young scored 13 points apiece. Merrillville is now 3-4. They were led by freshman Charles Hardiman, their leading scorer on the season, with 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. And junior Josiah Jones had 18 points. He went 8 for 11 from the field. Merrillville then lost 60-40 to Portage in the third place game. Kokomo beat Warren Central 76-71 in the championship. Again, Kokomo shot 58% from the field in a hot shooting weekend for them. Kokomo led 41-29 at halftime. The Wildcats are now 8-2. Bellamy scored 21 points in this one. Moore had 20. Hamill had 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Young and freshman DJ Nash scored 10 points apiece. Nash also had a team-high 6 rebounds and a team-high 4 assists. The Wildcats are at 3-7 Logansport on Friday, January 10th. Warren Central is now 4-3. They had 4 players in double figures, led by Javon Guess's 18 points. Warren Central beat Portage 55-37 in the semifinal round. Anderson easily won the East Noble Invitational. They beat John Glenn 83-23 in the first round, then beat Garrett 75-52 in the championship game. Anderson is now 7-1. They are at 3-6 Yorktown on Thursday. Yorktown has lost 6 games in a row. Garrett falls to 8-2. They beat East Noble 47-39 in the semifinal round. Sheridan won its holiday tournament, and looking back through the records, it's the first holiday tournament championship we can find ever for Sheridan. They might have had one back in the 80s or earlier, but none as late as 1994. This was the 6th year for their holiday tournament. In the 72-24 semifinal win over North White, senior Caleb Wright had 18 points, sophomore Trey Page had 16, senior Damon Watson 9, and senior Carson Wright had 8. North White is 0-10 after a 69-30 loss to Fountain Central in the consolation game. And in the championship, Sheridan beat Hagerstown 85-55. Sheridan shot 60% from the field, 9 for 16 from deep, 8 for 10 at the free throw line, and had 24 assists on 34 baskets. Sheridan is now 8-1 and has won 7 games in a row. Page scored 22 of his 28 points in the first half. He was 9 for 15 from the field with 5 steals and 3 assists. Winston finished with 13.7 rebounds and 3 assists. Carson Wright, Caleb Wright, and junior Devin Hamilton scored 10 points apiece. Caleb Wright also had 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals. Sheridan gets a big test on Saturday. They go to 8-1 Park Heritage. The Wolves are ranked 2nd in Class 2A. Hagerstown is now 3-6. They beat Fountain Central 43-30 earlier Saturday morning. At Greenwood, Yorktown dropped a couple of games. The first one was really a tough one, 61-60 to 6-1 Columbus East. Yorktown led 19-14 at the end of the first, 33-27 at the half, and it was 51-51 heading into the final quarter. Junior Keaton Lawson was the difference for East. He had 22 points and hit the game-clinching three-pointer in the final minute. East later beat Greenwood 69-58 in the championship to improve to 7-1. In the consolation game, Triton Central beat Yorktown 57-38. Triton Central outscored Yorktown 21-7 in the third quarter after leading by 6 points at the half. Yorktown is 3-6 with 6 straight losses. They host 7-1 Anderson on Thursday. Triton Central is now 5-3. Senior Silas Blair led the Tigers with 24 points on 11 of 14 shooting. Triton Central shot 63% from the field and made half of their 14 three-point attempts. They lost 61-54 to Greenwood in the first round. At Edinburgh, Borden beat Alexandria 51-43 for third place. Alexandria went 1-2 at the tournament and finished in fourth place. The Tigers are now 2-7 on the season. They are at 7-1 Anderson in the opening round of the Madison County tournament on Monday, January 6th. Borden is now 6-4. They've won 5 of their last 6, including the Washington County Championship last week. At Shenandoah, Blackford lost 51-43 to Greenwood Christian in the third place game. Greenwood Christian pulled away from the Bruins in the final minute to get the win. Blackford is now 5-4. They were led by freshman Mari Leggett, who had 20 points, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Senior Gage Baker had 12 points, 6 rebounds. Senior Jacob Lease had 7 points with 2 3-pointers. Blackford is at 3-5 Madison Grant in a CIC game. They have a few days off. They won't play that one till Friday, January 10th. Greenwood Christian is now 4-6. Tri Central went 1-1 at Morristown. First, the Trojans were beaten 57-54 in the first round by Western Boone. Tri Central led 47-41 after 3 quarters before being outscored 16-7 in the fourth. Senior Drake Ramsier had 18 points in defeat. He scored 11 of those points in the first quarter. He also had 4 assists and 3 steals. Senior Izzy Fowler had 15 points, and senior Jay Jankowiak had 9 points and 8 rebounds. Western Boone, it was the second win of the season for Western Boone, which lost 57-48 to Morristown in the championship. In the consolation game, Tri Central beat Heron 69-55. That makes Tri Central 5-3 on the season. Ramsier had a huge game with 36 points. Fowler had 14 points and 5 assists. Freshman Cooper Leininger had 8 points. Senior Tanner England finished with 6 points and 10 rebounds. And senior Aaron Hoback had 7 rebounds and 3 assists. Tri Central is at 1-5 Daleville on Saturday. Heron is now 1-9. They were led by Jaden Parker's 15 points and Kevin Flanagan's 13. Western went 1-1 on Saturday at Lebanon. First, they lost 51-39 in the consolation bracket to Class A number 10 Metropolitan. Western was led by 15 points from junior Carter Biggs and 13 from senior Hudson Biggs. Metropolitan improved to 9-3 with the win and later beat University 60-48 for 5th place. Western then beat Faith Christian 64-46 for 7th place. Western leaves the tournament 7-3. They were led in the nightcap by freshman Eli Mass 19 points. Carter Biggs had 17 points and was named all-tournament. Hudson Biggs had 11. Western is at 6-2 West Lafayette in a huge test on Saturday. Faith Christian is now 1-6. After going 1-1 on Friday at the Holiday Classic at Switzerland County, Hamilton Heights beat Trinity Lutheran for 5th place in the tournament on Saturday. After trailing 15-14 at the end of the first, the Huskies outscored Trinity 22-8 in the second and 29-15 in the third. Hamilton Heights is now 6-5. Junior Reese Knapp led the Huskies with 18 points. He was 6 for 10 from the field and made 3 of his 5 three-point attempts. Senior Gavin Saunders had 16 points and 5 assists. Senior Carson Felger scored 12 points, had 6 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 assists. Senior Chris Nobby had 8 points. Junior Drew Duncan had 6 points and 7 rebounds. Senior Tyler Champion had 7 points and 7 assists, 6 steals, and 3 rebounds. Hamilton Heights is at 4-2 Northwestern on Friday. Oh, sorry, that's Friday, January 10th, so a week from Friday. Trinity Lutheran is now 4-6. They were led by sophomore Reed Mellencamp's game high 27 points. He had 5 of the team's 6 three-pointers. And in case you're wondering if he's related to John Mellencamp, that's Jackson County, so that is very likely. But there are a lot of Mellencamps in Jackson County, so it could be a distant relative. We also had 4 standalone games on Saturday. Monroe Central beat Frankton 48-36. Frankton shot just 32% from the field and made just 3 of their 5 three-point attempts. Frankton is 2-5 after its third straight loss. Seniors Joey Wright and Javon Miller scored 9 points apiece to lead the team. Wright also had 3 assists. Miller had 3 rebounds and 2 steals. Senior Brady Carmack had 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Junior Ethan Stansberry finished with 8 points. Frankton hosts 5-2 Anderson Prep in what should be a pretty good game on Monday, January 6th, in the first round of the Madison County Tournament. Monroe Central is one of the surprises of Central Indiana. They are 7-1. They've won 6 games in a row. Senior Easton Foster continues his hot season with 19 points. Freshman Luke Morgan had 17. Pendleton Heights beat Chittard 63-50 in Pendleton. Chittard led 43-37 with under 7 minutes left to play. Pendleton Heights outscored Chittard 26-7 the rest of the way. The Arabians led 19-9 at the end of the first, were outscored 20-10 in the second for a 29-29 halftime tie. Chittard took a 40-36 lead into the fourth quarter. Hamilton Heights got some big nights from some key players. They are now 3-5 on the year. Junior Cooper Sims finished with 30 points. Senior Joe Estes had 13 points and made tons of plays when they needed him in the fourth quarter. Same with Junior Ashan Singh. His defense, passing, and court awareness was one of the big differences in the Arabians' win. Senior Evan Mazingo also had 8 points. Pendleton hosts 4-3 Lapel in the Madison County opener on Monday, January 6th. Pendleton beat Lapel earlier this season. Chittard is 1-5. They were led by senior Cashmore's 20 points. Brownsburg beat Class A number 4 Liberty Christian 64-43. Brownsburg dominated from the start. They led by 12 after the first quarter, 15 at halftime, and 25 after 3 quarters. Liberty Christian is now 5-4 against, has to be one of Class A's toughest schedules. Sophomore T.J. English led the Lions with 12 points. Junior Jelani Dixon had 10. He made 3 three-pointers. Senior Christian Townsend scored 9. Sophomore Kendrick Martin finished with 6. And the Lions are at Elwood in the opening round of the Madison County Tournament on Monday, January 6th. Brownsburg is now 2-5. 6'6" senior forward Josiah Sloss had 16 points and 8 rebounds to lead the Bulldogs. He was 5 for 8 from the field, 5 for 6 from the line. And Class 2A number 1 Wapahani beat Jay County 50-46. Wapahani led 46-35 with 3:20 left. Then Jay County went on a 9-0 run to get within 46-44 with 1:09 left to play. Junior Camden Bell converted a beautiful reverse layup. After a Jay County turnover, senior Nate Luce hit 2 clutch free throws with 9 seconds left to seal it. Wapahani is now 9-0. They went 25-3 in the 2024 calendar year. Luce led the Raiders with 20 points. Bell had 19 points and 4 rebounds. Wapahani is at 1-7 Blue River on Friday. Jay County is 3-4. Senior Tucker Griffin finished with 14 points, and sophomore Jaden Comer and 6'9 junior center Cole Forthofer scored 10 points apiece. Jay County hosts 3-6 Muncie Central on Saturday.
It's 2 hours.
And now you know everything we know about Central Indiana basketball. The Central Indiana Sports Report Boys Basketball Player of the Day for Saturday, December 28th is Sheridan sophomore Trey Page. He had 44 points, 8 steals, and 5 rebounds in Sheridan's wins over North White and Hagerstown in the holiday tournament hosted by Sheridan. He was 14 for 25 from the field, 8 for 14 from behind the three-point arc, and made 8 of his 9 free throw attempts in the Blackhawks championship day. Thanks to Grant Shouse for his report on the Grant 4 tournament, and thank you for listening. Please tell a friend about the Central Indiana Sports Report. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't done it yet, go subscribe. Just do it. It don't cost nothing. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And in case you weren't aware, I love Susie. Happy New Year, everyone.